We're going to dive into the offensive line a little more after a quick word from FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season big with a return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get in the hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more, all on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com/UCSS. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook sponsor of the NFL. Bull, let's dive into the offensive line before we get into the rest. Yesterday, they certainly struggled. They have 8 sacks, 4 in the first half, 4 in the second half. There were points during the game, I tweeted it out, where it appeared the Browns' offensive line had never blocked a stunt in their life. The Giants were running stunt after stunt after stunt and getting pressure and getting home. In any world, did you foresee this offensive line struggling this much, this early in the season, with a healthy Bitonio, a healthy Pochich, a healthy Teller, and DeJuan Jones, who has taken a giant step back from where we saw as a rookie?
No. How could anybody have foreseen this offensive line playing so poorly? I know a lot of people want to just say, it's Bill Callahan. It's Bill Callahan. I think it's more likely Tom Callahan, Tommy Boy's dad, than it is Bill Callahan. The reason. First of all, has anybody seen the offensive line stats for the Titans, by the way?
Not great.
Their offense is terrible.
Do you know which team is allowing the most sacks per pass attempt in the league?
I'm going to guess the Titans based on
that would be the Titans. The Browns are terrible. They're third. But in terms of sacks per pass play, the Titans are the worst in the league. So I'm not saying Bill Callahan's not a great coach. He's an excellent offensive line coach. But the idea that the whole offensive line is falling apart because Bill Callahan left is stupid. The offensive line has fallen apart for a variety of reasons. A small percentage of that is probably Bill Callahan. But Tonio looks old. I don't know if it's just early season. I don't know what the reason is, but he looks old. He's not the same player. Ethan Posick was a complete bust in Seattle. He played very well his first year here. Last year he was hurt, and so far this year he looks like the bust that was in Seattle. Wyatt Teller's dealt with a lot of injuries, as Jason knows well, the last few years. Maybe that's caught up with him to some degree. And the tackles, first of all, Jed hasn't played in forever. DeJuan Jones weighs over 400 pounds. I don't care what he's listed at. I'm a fat man. I know how much fat men weigh, okay? So don't tell me he weighs 360 pounds because there's no way on earth. That guy is 425. He might be close to 450. He is completely out of shape. He cannot play. G started mentioning this when we were doing the show in the studio. He is so slow. It doesn't even matter how strong he is, how big he is, because first of all, the defensive ends around the league, especially the good ones, and we saw some good ones yesterday, they're all so quick. It doesn't even matter that you're big. They're running right by you. And especially when he wasn't fast to begin with. Now he's beyond slow. He's as slow as it gets on the offensive line. So he has no chance to stop any of these pass rushers. So it's just a combination of things here that have led to the fact. And there's not much hope. Like with Bitonio and Teller, I'm like, all right, maybe they'll round into form as the season goes. But I'll tell you, if Bitonio and Teller, and Bitonio's turning 33 in like 3 weeks. If Bitonio and Teller, can't get back to what they were, then they might have the worst offensive line in the league, or certainly amongst the worst offensive lines in the league. And we thought this was a strength.
Gee, I want you to go last on this because you played offensive line. You could talk in the stunts. Jason, I know you watched the offensive line. You had the numbers after week 1. Are you going to try and say the offensive line played well yesterday or better than we thought, or did you and the numbers indicate exactly what we saw, which was constant pressure on Deshaun?
No, you can't possibly say that the offensive line played well yesterday. It was obvious, especially on the edges. The tackles, the issues that you're having, I think, with the guards, with Bitonio and Teller and Postage and Bull, I don't think Ethan was a bust in Seattle. He was hurt. He had a ton of injuries in Seattle. When he was healthy here, he was very good. He was very productive. But I think probably the guards know what's going on at the tackle right now, and I think it hurts them a little bit because they're trying to do 2 jobs. And you're right about DeJuan. He does look. Listen, fat guys better than me. He's big. He's big. And it probably is. He's a little bit bigger than he was last year. I told you guys last year the concern with him was some of the maturity stuff, was staying in shape, that sort of thing. being a professional. That's what they were concerned about with him. It wasn't the on-field talent. And maybe you're seeing a little bit of that. I do think his knee's bothering him. Like, guys didn't blow by him last year like this. So I think his knee's bothering him. Now, is it bothering him because he's overweight and out of shape? Yeah, okay, I'd buy that. But the knee is right now a hindrance, and Kevin even acknowledged that after the game, that right now he's physically limited. The Jed situation, he's had 3 or 4 practices total, comes back yesterday and gets hurt again. I actually thought, Zach and I talked about this during the game, after the game, we both wrote about it. I thought not having Jermaine Ifedi up was a terrible miscalculation, making him inactive, knowing how limited you were going to be on the tackles. And that's not to say Ifedi's good or great, but he at least is a warm body who's played tackle before. And the fact that they left him inactive to try and bring up another linebacker for special teams seemed curious before the game and seemed like a major roster mismanagement after the game. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you they played great. They didn't. I actually thought they were better when Bitonio slid to left tackle and Posich moved to left guard and Nick Harris came in. It actually looked better. And I thought that at that point, it's funny because I thought at that point Deshaun started getting the ball out faster. And Mike, I texted you before the show. That actually isn't true. It was actually, I can't remember numbers off the top of my head, but it was the first, this was the quickest he's ever been hit from pressure all season long, was week 3.
I have the numbers you texted me this morning if you want them real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
You said his time to throw under pressure was 3.82 seconds. His lowest of the season, it ranked middle of the pack, but he's usually within the top 10. In the first half, it was 3.56 seconds. Yep. In the second half with Bitonio at left tackle, it increased to 4.03. So almost an entire half second
more
pressure.
When they really had to go to the patchwork line, it was actually better. And that was pressure. Those are pressure numbers. That wasn't average time to throw. That was pressure. And pressure in this instance is defined as when you're hit, hurried, or sacked. So he actually had a little bit more under pressure, a little bit more time when the line changed, when they moved Bitonio to left tackle. Wyatt's probably going to miss a couple of weeks with this, I think, is what the news you're going to hear in the next couple of days. So this is not a problem that's going to solve itself overnight. Is Jed out again? Is Wyatt out again? Could Conklin be back? It seemed like he had a late setback Friday or Saturday. So I don't know if he'll be ready to go or not, but it's a crisis right now. The offensive line is a crisis, and particularly at the tackles. More so, yes, Joel's getting old, and Wyatt's had some injuries. They're really high on Zach Zinter. We'll see with him. I don't think Wyatt's going to play. I'm not concerned with the interior as much as I am with the exterior. I think if you solve the tackles, but Garrett, you would know better than me. I think if you solve the tackles and the guards would have more trust and faith in the tackles that they would do their job, that some of the other problems would clean themselves up.
I thought you were right on. Their best tackle might be Joe Bitonio, which is hard to say. I noticed that. I was talking to my dad, and we looked and said, man, well, it was one play where I think Brian Burns got around the corner on him a little bit. But I think
he got flagged for a holding. It might have been that play, but he got flagged for one.
It was that play. Yep.
But the thing about it was, I think after that, the speed of the game, it slowed down for him a little bit. And I thought Joel did a good job on the outside, especially being a guy who's used to being inside in the interior. It's a different level of athlete that you're looking at on the outside. And I'll say this too a little bit. When you look at the Giants pass rush, oh no, they're legit. I've talked about this for a long time with Mikey throughout the season. I said Kayvon Thibodeau is a guy. Dexter Lawrence is a monster. We saw him push in the pocket all day in the middle. And Brian Burns is a guy who is a freak show as well. So, we talked about those things, and I think that contributes a little bit. But the tackle position is it is really hurting people. It is really hurting the Browns, and it's really a situation where DeJuan Jones needs to lose about 100 pounds. And right now, and you're correct, Bull, he's playing well over 400 pounds.
Oh, yeah.
He's playing well over 400. And when you have that much weight on your frame, I knew this was going to be a tough situation because when you take a look at what's going on with the Browns in general, they had all these guys in the offensive line coming off surgeries. Those guys came off surgeries, and when you come off surgery, you're not practicing, you're not doing much, you're not conditioning, and everyone looks like they are about 5 to 10 pounds overweight and about a little sluggish. Joe Bitonio, I think he's lost a step. Now, granted, he's a borderline, in my opinion, when he's playing, he's a borderline Hall of Fame type guy. So if he loses a step, okay, he just becomes an average guy, right? Or above average player. But I still think the outside is where your problem is. Jed Wills, even when Jed came back, Jed looked clueless. Jed let 2 or 3 guys walk right past him. Ethan Pochich, the buck is still out on him.
It's your phone, Bull. Please turn your ringer off.
My ringer is off.
Is that me? Is that you?
No,
I looked at me. I was like, man,
I think it's Bull.
That was me that chatted from Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. I thought I was sending out my own chat.
Right.
Some people, because some people in the chat are real, not nice. They say awful things. So I was commenting. I said they're D's, but the rest of you, hello. People say some messed up stuff in there.
Hey, enter the chat at your own peril.
I don't even know what you guys are talking about.
And well, because Earl and Mike were flipping out. I mean, Earl and Anthony were losing it because I said stop being bleeps, but hello to the rest of you. And I did it under UCSS. I thought I was doing it under my own name.
So
yeah.
we'll
get in trouble for that. So please, yeah.
All right, just delete it.
Gee, you're on a nice soliloquy. Finish up here.
So we'll finish it up. I think in general, you're gonna have to look at it. Look, DeJuan Jones, how are you gonna work yourself into shape when you have a knee issue? That's something you should have worked in the offseason. Jed Wills, to me, he hasn't played in well over a year almost. It seems like. When he did come back, it looked like he was gimpy. It looks like he was not ready to play, and it looked like he was confused on what's going on. And one of the things that the major focus and issue that we have is it isn't Bill Callahan that you're missing so much. But one thing that you have to take in consideration is that when you are the run game coordinator, you coordinate anytime you draw a play up, right? You can coordinate it and draw it up anyway. You could have a guy backside pull. You could do pull and pin. You can run zone. You could double to the mic. You could do all these things. They also coordinate whether or not the tight end is going to block the end. There's schematic stuff that you talk about with Bill Callahan as him being part of the running game. And one of the things is the Browns running game does not look the same. It does not look like they're blocking it up the same way. It's just not the pass game that's hurting you a little bit. The thing about the Browns was they were always able to run the football. They were always able to use that big offensive line and weigh on people and grind you down, and then now use the play action. And I think it goes to a bigger question and a bigger problem that we have with the Cleveland Browns is, what is the identity of what they're doing? And does the personnel that they have right now have the slightest chance of being successful? If you want to throw the ball downfield, do you have linemen that are pass blocking type physical linemen? Do you have receivers that can run, jump, get downfield, create separation? And do you have a quarterback that can throw the ball deep with accuracy in order to keep people from coming up short? I think this is 3 parts of the program that are a scary situation for the Browns, because I don't think the tackle thing is fixable. I'm starting to say the deep ball opportunity and deep shots is not fixable with the personnel, and who knows what situation you have between Dorsey and Stefanski on what is this offense supposed to be like.
And by the way, there's so much. It's so funny because half the fan base wants to blame the offensive line, half the fan base wants to blame Deshaun Watson, and everybody gets mad at you when you blame the other, when clearly there's plenty of blame to go around. The offensive line sucked. Watson didn't play well enough. There's all kinds of problems. I don't want to hear the excuses, G, though, about Bill Callahan being the run game coordinator. You have new coaches in the NFL. You have new coordinators in the NFL, and teams doing better. They had a whole off season, a whole preseason, a whole training camp, and now 3 games to fix it. If that can't be an excuse at this point. That to me I'm not buying that.
Well, no. Listen here, I'm not using it as an overarching theme. The offensive line has to be better. You have to get people off the line of scrimmage. The point I'm making is when we thought we had a cohesive offensive group and game plan, and right now it does not seem like the running game is working, the passing game is working, or the blocking is working. So that comes back to your coaches and says, okay, well, what is our plan? And it doesn't help. Earl said it. They ran a soft training camp. So, we didn't get a chance to see any of it. It almost make me want to think like, oh, listen, this is bad. We're not even going to put them out there. Hopefully they work through it. Because when Zach Jackson said it was bad, dang it, I didn't even think it was going to be this bad up front.
Yeah.